Hi, my friend.
Hey Martin,
How's it going?
how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. Sorry, I was like, I always have to like in the morning, I'm never ready for, a live. But how are
I'm
you?
sure everyone would beg to differ. 'Cause you just like roll in and just do your thing and whatever, right?
Well, I feel like Monday mornings are always my weekend catch-up mornings where I'm like, the kids are finally out, so I have like a few quiet moments to, do
Yes.
some admin, clean up any mess they've made or we've made over the weekend. So,
Yes.
yeah, and I'm usually running around my pajamas until midday.
Oh,
But
nice. Must be nice. It's good.
well,
And then you just grind through the evening. Like, what's your Monday day like teaching schedule look like?
I don't work on Mondays. So
Oh,
well, actually, that's a
perfect.
lie. I have one client very late in the evening at 6:45. So I have like the whole day to kind of do all the stuff that gets me ready for like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I found, like I used to like take on classes wherever I could, and now I'm like, no, I need one day to organize for those classes so that I'm not just like
Yep.
running around like a headless chicken the rest of the week. So
True.
Mondays is that day. I respond to emails. I, get ready for like if I have like classes where I need like a plan for the class or for
Real
the
process.
client, I make sure that
Yes.
I go through that and kind of get that ready.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, social media is a really big part of what I do now. So I need to schedule in time for my social media.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I used to feel a little bit like embarrassed or like a little bit, didn't want to talk about like social media. But the reality is that it is a big part of what I do. So
Mhm.
it is my work as well.
It
So
is
yeah.
your
So
work.
yeah. So it's like
Absolutely.
yeah, Mondays are a day when I'm like I plan out what I'm gonna do for my social media. How I'm gonna film stuff. I check the weather because the weather affects a lot of what I like how when am I gonna film things or record things and what's the lighting gonna be like and so on and so forth. So yeah. So Mondays are those days when I kind of get the rest of my week organized or I try to at
Yes.
least. I don't know if I'm very good at it.
You always have next week to practice, right? You get your
Right?
reps week over
Right.
week.
A little
And
bit better every week.
that's exactly it. That's my thing. Better every day, right? So,
Hmm.
and I use my Fridays for that. Like my Friday mornings, I don't take any clients until later in the morning, so I can have that time to do that planning. So I think, we talked about that in the past, like having some kind of cadence
Hmm.
is super important to be able to just not just spend your whole time just working in your business, take some time to work on your business.
Yes. Yes.
And I love what you do with your social media and how intentional you are, and also how transparent you are, right? Like there's a lot of times that um we're kind of struggle with like how much do I want to put my kids out there, how much do I want to put my spouse out there, how much do I want to put out like just me eating food or partying or all these
Yes.
different things. Like it's so like what's your measure for that? Like I know I can talk about mine too, but like how do you decide what's gonna make the cut and what's not in terms of your personal life and your social media?
So I feel like, I mean, Instagram is my main platform. And, so on Instagram, you have different channels of how you can present information. You have your main feed where you can like put pictures, short videos, or, the main feed kind of shows most of everything else that's out there. But originally it was just pictures and short videos and then carousel posts. And then you have reels, you have stories, which don't show up on your main grid, and you have like IGTV. So you have longer form videos. And I find that whatever is on my main feed has to be somewhat related to Pilates, unless it's like a major event, either in my life or society in general. So unless
Yeah.
it's like a huge event where I'm like, I must say something about this, generally my main feed is just for Pilates and like fitness related information.
Mhm.
That way it doesn't get too messy either. But
Yes.
then on my stories, like I feel like there's, when people come to your main feed, they do want to kind of have like an insight into who you are as a
A
person or
window in
what
there
else
for
you do.
sure.
So I put a lot of that. My stories are more for, information that would look very messy on my main feed. And it's more for like, if I like something that somebody else does, like for example, if you are doing something, I will put that in my stories versus my main feed because it just would not make sense on unless we were doing something together, it wouldn't
Yes.
make sense for me to pull all these random other pages that are like food and I don't know, they might not even be related to fitness, but they're interesting. It
Right.
wouldn't make sense for me to repost that on my Pilates page. So I kind of put all of that in my stories. Anything that is interesting but messy at the same time, like my personal life, that all goes in the stories. And in terms of personal life, I share what I feel is enough for people to understand who I am,
Yeah.
but not enough to, know my children's dates of birth and things like that. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
or yeah. So I feel like I do like to maintain some sense of privacy, and I want to respect because I don't know if my children want to be on social media when they grow up. So,
Right.
people should know that I have children, but they don't need to know what school they go to or,
Right. Yes.
like what I don't know, like who their friends are. So
Right.
you'll generally find that I don't post anybody else's children, just mine. Or if I
Mhm.
do, I kind of hide their faces, stuff like that.
Yeah.
My husband is not really on social media, so he'll show up every once in a while, but I do have to like, like please, I have to like pull him into it. Yeah, and and then sometimes I'll do collaborations with other people, and that
Yeah.
either stories or main feed. So yeah, so I guess that's how I organize the stuff that is most relevant to Pilates on my main
Mhm.
page, and to fitness on my main page, and everything else kind of has its place either in stories on IGTV, and recently I started like being a little bit more intentional with my reels as well,
Mhm.
which has been fun and which has been
They're
great.
fun. Yes.
Yes, yes. So, and reels, if I make a food reel, I might not have that on my main grid. I'll just have that in reels. Like,
Yeah.
um, because there is stuff that you can do with reels that you cannot do with stories or with, regular posts. So yeah, I hope that
Mhm.
answers the question. I feel like I start
No,
waffling
it's
on
good. It's good.
about all the other things that are out there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Um,
it's helpful because the people like everyone has different strategies. Some people have no strategies, and then you kind of just
mhm.
take little nuggets from like these conversations from people who are doing it. Um, and it's not necessarily about the number of followers you have, but it's your engagement with those followers, right? So you're
I,
just doing,
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that. People
yeah.
say it doesn't matter how many followers you have. I
Mhm.
feel like that would be like a studio saying it doesn't matter how many people walk through this door.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that if you have 100 followers, like feel bad about it
No,
because
no.
yes,
Yeah.
it is really important how you engage with your followers. But again, depending on what your business strategy is, and everybody's business strategy is different. So depending
Yes.
on what your business strategy is, the number of followers can be very important.
At certain
If you are
thresholds, yeah.
working with brands, it makes a huge difference to have 100,000 followers versus having 10,000 followers in terms of how much you can
Yes.
command from those brands. So if you're running your social media like a business, then having a large following definitely makes a difference to what you earn. Um,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
just like it's like a Pilates studio. Like there's some studios that can survive on 10. Like if I had a studio in my basement, maybe I would only need 10 clients, and that would cover, the bills for that room in my basement and all the business expenses. Then it wouldn't matter if I didn't have 1,000 clients. But if I was renting a space,
Yes.
in a unit somewhere else outside my house, I would probably not be able to survive on 10 clients. So
Hmm.
depending on what your social media is for, the number of followers does matter. Like, and,
Yes.
and I feel like people need to stop saying it doesn't matter because um, no one should feel bad. But if your business is to, if you're, it depends on if you're in the business of like influencing or if you're in the business of like trying to promote your own business. And it doesn't matter,
Hmm. Yeah.
because there,
That's true.
if you have
Yeah.
100,000 or if you have 500,000 followers and you lose 250,000 of those, it's going to be a big deal to how much you're going to command in terms of, and even if you're selling a program, like let's say if you have a
Yes.
Pilates program and you lose half your following, you're only reaching half the people that you could reach to sell your program to. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. No,
Mhm.
that's fair. That's exactly. I follow you on that. I think I was thinking from the perspective of the quality of those followers
Mhm.
instead of
Yes,
just having a boasting of having the number, right? Because I mean, there's times that
absolutely.
what I'm saying? Like you look at someone's follower list, they have 150,000 followers, and then they're all like characteristics in like Chinese or something. Like Like you just bought
no,
them.
absolutely. So if you
Like,
bought all your followers and there's no interactions with them, and
yeah.
like, or if you only like, I know there's pages out there who have 1 million followers, and people, there's zero interactions. Like they post something and no one interacts. So yes, you're right.
Yes.
If you have
Yes.
uninteractive, if you have followers who are not interacting with your content, but they're just watching it, they're not quite as valuable as those that are really like interacting with you and engaged in your content and commenting or like liking and sharing. Yes, absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, interaction. But I mean,
Hmm.
but you're right though. Those number thresholds are key, right? And they're
Hmm.
the things that do draw attention
Yeah,
and
because
you know
like I said, I work with brands, and the first thing brands ask for is my numbers.
your numbers,
So
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
they say send us a screenshot of what you did in the last 7 days. And the weeks where things are going bad, I'm like, man, this screenshot looks horrible.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's like like I can't post that stuff anymore because like when somebody asks me for my stats, like my stats really don't look good this week.
Mm,
So yeah, so stats matter.
yeah.
Hmm.
Stats matter. I don't know how we got in this conversation about stats and social media. I think
Well,
the
I
question
think
is
part of it is like you ask what people do, like what else do you do,
yes.
right?
What else? Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like,
I
people
love how
like
you're just taking over. This is I'll just sit back. Go ahead.
like when you say what else do you do, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, in terms of exercise, I love Mace Bell, I love TRX. At some point in my fitness career, I decided that unless I had a client that I'd been working with for a long time who was doing TRX or yoga, I was not going to take on any new clients who were not Pilates clients. So
Okay.
if people come to me now and they're like, "Ooh, we see you posted this fun workout. We want to work out that way." I'm like, "Well, those are the fun things I post that I feel like they're fun. I want to share them,
Hmm.
but I'm not going to train you. I'm not going to make up a daily plan to train you like that. So if you want to train with me, it's going to be Pilates." And it's mainly because I was going crazy teaching 5 different formats, like Monday
Mm,
TRX, Tuesday Pilates, Wednesday yoga. Like it was just like, it was like almost like madness having to make all these different plans, coming up with
yes.
different, that there was a time when I was using music, having to, come up with music for all these
Create
different
your
classes.
playlist.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
just so much work. And at the end, I was like burned out, mentally exhausted. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I kind of thought, you know what? I like teaching Pilates. I kind of like
Mm,
the other stuff, but I don't want to do it every day and every week anymore. I just
yes.
want to do those things myself. I like TRX. But I don't want to teach a TRX group.
Yes.
Um, Unless TRX, if TRX is listening into this, I will work for you.
Right. Right.
you know, like
Yes. Razor.
unless
Razor.
it made sense financially, just to go out there and teach a class at a studio for $30 or for, $40.
Mm-mm.
I was like, I can't, I have to like focus on one thing. And I
Yep.
think what I also noticed is that having all these different things that I was teaching meant that I was never really great at any one thing because I was
That's the
researching
next thing.
5 different, and some people are really good at that. I do have to give
Yeah.
it, like some people are great at teaching 10 formats. They go in and they kill it every single format that they teach. I'm not that person. I just have to be honest with myself. I can
Hmm.
teach one thing really well, maybe one and a half things. Like yoga, I still teach occasionally. And I
Yes.
have a couple of yoga clients who just don't want to let the yoga go. But yeah, like I'm like, I find that if I just research Pilates 5 days a week, I'm a much better Pilates teacher than if I
Yeah.
um, only plan for it one day a week. Like so.
Sure. No,
Hmm.
that's good. And I think that for all of us, we need to just make that decision which one we
Hmm.
want to let go so we could focus on the others. And did you catch when I said that just before you came on about when I was in personal training,
Hmm.
Pilates was my like add-on to say like, that's what
Hmm.
separates me as a personal trainer. And now that I'm in more Pilates than anything, it circles back around to say, oh, and I do TRX, right? Like that
Hmm.
becomes my value add from the Pilates space, right? So
Yeah.
now, as a Pilates person, you may be 5 Pilates people in the room, and you're the only one who teaches yoga as well. So then that becomes that thing that separates you if needed, right? So it's kind of like
Hmm.
that thing, that other tool in your toolbox, that other language that you speak that no one else in the room can translate for, sort of thing.
Hmm. So, sorry, did you want me to add to that?
Sure, absolutely.
um, no, no. I mean, I agree. I agree. Yes, it's good to have different languages in your toolbox, and definitely my past experience comes into my, like my Pilates training, things that I learned. Like I was very, very into the yoga space for a long time. So definitely I'm able to pull from what I learned in yoga as to like, you know, how it informs me with certain bodies in Pilates.
Love that. Yep.
Um, so yeah, so it's nice to have those tools, and I still do certifications in other. I just got Mace Bell certified. Next year, I'm probably going to do like a myofascial certification. Doesn't
Yes.
mean that I'm going to go out there and have like now I'm just going to go train Mace Bell. No, but it's fun. I might have a client who, I do the warm up exercises from the Mace Bell with them
Sure.
because they have
Yeah.
something going on in their wrist, and it's particularly good for that client. So yes, I do pull from those other languages, um,
Right.
but I don't necessarily want to add that into my training. At least not now. Who knows? Things
Yeah.
always change, but right now, it's not a priority to do 5 different formats. And I feel like what I found too was I could not teach all of those things in one studio because I don't own my own space. I was working
Right.
for other studios, so I would have to like drive to this studio or to that studio. I mean, I worked at Lifetime where I guess I could have done um, more than one format, but
Yes.
I didn't want to work there anymore. So, so,
Moving on.
so yes, I
Yes.
didn't want to give them any
Yes.
more of my
Of
skills.
your yes. Well,
um,
yeah. It's so funny you say that way because I knew that you were going right there with that because like we give our skills, our talents, our vision, our time to someone else's vision,
hmm
right? And it's just
Yes.
like, well, why am I
Yeah.
building your empire? Like,
And that's exactly, I mean, that's why social media is so great. I feel
mhm,
like, that's why, or the online space is so great. Whether it's,
yes,
I mean, some people are just on YouTube and,
and do it well.
yeah, and you can have your own space on YouTube. So if you're going to be burned out, if you're going to give somebody everything you've got, then why not give it to yourself? Or why not,
Right.
yeah. And I
Yep.
feel like that's how I felt when I was leaving the big box was just that, um, at the end of the year, we'd have like parties saying that we were number one and we had done so well. And then when I would go ask for a raise, they would be like, "Oh, fill out this like incredibly long form justifying why you should get a raise."
You
What?
got raises. Wow.
Well, I was DH department head for a while at Lifetime, and
Okay. Yes.
so I kind of understood how that process started to understand how it worked in terms of people getting raises because I think when you become department head, you see
Hmm.
that this instructor is earning twice as much as this other one. Like, what happened there?
Yes.
So yeah, so there's a process, but it's a very I feel like it's a very high like just a lot of paperwork for a dollar. Like I'm like, I can just change studios and get 5 more. Like I can
Right.
leave you and get 5 more at this other studio. Why would I want to fill out 10 forms, go through an interview, justify why I need to why I need to
Right.
have an extra, especially if because as me being part of the team, we
Hmm.
made it to like top in the country. Like
Right.
we're the top group fitness team. Everybody should automatically get a raise for achieving that goal.
Yes.
It shouldn't be we have to beg for it. So I think at that point I was like, yeah, I'm not appreciated here, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna look for something else.
Oh yes, our lifetime days. I was an ADH PT department, so I feel you.
Huh?
An
hmm
ADH assistant department head
Yeah,
for the PT, right? So yeah, so I get it. There was a
yes.
comment earlier about
hmm
the, where was it? It flew through here. Oh yeah. So good morning. I'm also a yoga and Pilates master, and I chose Pilates and have been down for 20. Have been doing it for 23 years. I totally make it a fusion. Yeah. So like making a fusion of those gifts is definitely cool. I totally love a T-Rex Pilates Fusion. That's super top fab. Seeing that again, and there's one more comment from her. It came down. Oh no, from Ferris. I love change and variety, and that's also the beauty of our industry. Though my main thing is the reformer Pilates and strength training. Otherwise, I enjoy a large toolbox to take things out when needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're in this industry and you're committed to being a trainer, um, over time you will have to get, you know, your credits, or you'll have to like recertify. So there's no getting away from doing more training and learning
Right.
more and taking getting your CEUs or your I can't remember what the other units are, but just getting
CECs.
your,
Yeah.
yeah, getting
Yeah.
your CECs for recertification. So there's no getting away from learning more.
Right.
But you know, if you're brand new to this industry and you only have one certification, then that's okay too. You know, there's, you know, I feel like people go out there chasing certifications. Like I did that for a
Yes.
very long time, where I was like, I need to get certified in this. I'm gonna earn more if I get certified in this, and if I do this, it's gonna make me better. And it was like, no, it not necessarily. There's people who only focused on yoga, or only focused on
Yes.
Pilates, only
Hmm.
focused on personal training, or you know, when I say personal training, I know personal training is really broad, but they only
Right.
focused on things that they could do with their clients in personal training. And a
Yes.
lot of those people advanced so much more than me, who had 20 certifications. And then the upkeep of those certifications became kind of crazy at some point. I feel
Yes.
like
Oh,
when
don't
I
get me
just
started
started out
on
in the
those. Like,
industry, you could take a cert and the cert would be valid forever.
nope.
I and
Cash
you know, like
grab.
it was like
It's
you had
crazy.
it, and
Yeah.
and then at some point every single certifier wanted to have $200 or $500 a year
Yes.
for you to be able to use that certification. And I was like,
Right.
if I have 10 of these, that means, you know, like I'm paying like, you know, $2,000 to $5,000 every 2 years,
Yep.
and it's just, it doesn't make sense in this space.
No.
It doesn't make sense at all.
There's no
So
ROI for
yeah,
that.
so if you only have your Pilates certification and you are, you know, like you are learning from, you know, other Pilates or more senior Pilates teachers as you go along, that is good enough too. You know, you will get a
Absolutely.
lot of tools and language from that. So
One of the
hmm
things that I want to work on for next year, like in
hmm
that same line, Alexa, is to work with personal trainers and do like get personal trainers into some sort of bridge program into Pilates. Like I've been saying that just jokingly over the year, like if I was to do a Pilates certification, I would just be plucking personal trainers to make them Pilates people because
hmm
they understand the body, they understand movement, they understand teaching, they have a passion for teaching. They're ones who want to learn anyways, right? So instead of taking a functional movement screen test or whatever it is, of course, why not Pilates, right? So bridge, find the language and make some sort of bridge program for PT to Pilates.
yeah.
And so I don't have to reinvent the wheel in terms of another Pilates certification course, but just answer the questions and just help them to understand how that can help them in their business. So that's something that I'm kind of working on it, in this kind of conversation about tools and toolbox. I think that's for me as a guy, as a black man, as a personal trainer, just helping them to see that this can be a great tool for the toolbox. Pilates is an amazing tool that, for me, I abandoned personal training to get into Pilates. You know what I'm
I wasn't
saying?
gonna
To
say
like,
anything, but
yeah, yeah,
well, you know, I was a personal trainer for like a minute. You know,
yeah,
and I say that with caution because I've always worked one-on-one with people.
yeah.
I didn't necessarily consider it personal training per se, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like Pilates gives you almost like this, especially if you do like well, I'm classically trained, so I can only speak from that perspective. But
Yeah,
I definitely feel like if you are, you know, you come in and you're classically trained, it's almost like Pilates gives you this perfect system to train your clients versus, you know, having to like work with people and you are like, okay, let's make this lesson plan. Um,
yes,
and not saying that you don't plan for your clients in Pilates, like, because if my
yeah,
clients have things going on, we definitely, you know, work around it. But
yes,
I feel like personal training, I was always like, oh, I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing, or I don't know if it's actually going to work. And then we do it in the session, and it would be like, oh, this didn't really work out at all. It was so
yes,
boring.
right,
Versus Pilates, I feel like classical is there's so much structure to it where you put people, you adapt the structure to people's individual needs, but it's still the structure. And, you know,
yes.
like the reformer flow is the reformer flow. I can take out an exercise or
Mm-hmm.
modify one here or there, but we're still going to do like footwork, you know, 100. We're still going to go boom, 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 boom with
Right.
every single client with minor modifications if they can't do one or two exercises.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't have like this person's gonna do leg day today. That person's gonna do upper body.
No, no.
That person's gonna do, you know, it's
Yeah. Well,
and it
it's
just
funny.
makes it easier for me too. And it
Yeah.
works. It works. Like it
Yes.
works so much better. Um, Yeah, I feel like Pilates is like the perfect personal training system.
It is, and for me, I've noticed that late in my personal training career
Hmm.
that I was gravitating toward more like functional training type modalities, like the Viper and the TRX and stuff that
Hmm.
was full body. So I wasn't even doing leg day anymore. Every day was like a whole body integrated movement anyway. So
Right?
that's what made this natural progression to Pilates make so much sense, and
Hmm.
it made me a better personal trainer having that Pilates language.
I love Fit Club Pilates says classical is a map to the human in front of you. I love the system. And yeah,
Hmm.
I feel the same way. You know, I feel like classical Pilates is so misunderstood, whether it's because people went through a bad training or whether they have like a, you know, teacher who was not so experienced at teaching the
Yeah.
body.
Hmm.
But classical gets this rep of forcing people to do stuff that is not for them, when in
Right.
reality, you know, the classical, like someone was trying to call, but
That's it.
the classical has it's like this huge toolbox, and
Yes.
it has all the different things that you need for all these different bodies. I mean, the studio I work at, you know, I work with Joel. We get
Hmm.
people in with all kinds of stuff going on in their bodies, like, you know, all body shapes and sizes and ages,
Yes.
and
Yep.
um, there's something for all of them. And it's a pure class, like Joel is actually quite strict on this, pure classical studio, but there's something for all of them. So
Yes.
it's an amazing system.
Well, Fit Club Pilates just said there too. A good teacher is key, and I think that that's one of the things that gets lost in this whole dialogue is if you have if you have a teaching experience that is like really just laced in a snobbery to the work, then there's a pushback from both sides because now one side is saying this is the only way, and the other side is saying that way is too strict, and then this is the way is better, and then this one's saying this is all you need, and this is this bickering when you get away from the humans in front of you and what that
Hmm.
person needs. So then we as teachers need to be always sharpening our skills so we can look at this person and figure out exactly what we need. How does how does the repertoire tie into that and all those different questions. So I think it does come down ultimately to the teaching and our teaching experience, um, with that.
Hmm.
So I agree with that simple statement, but that's 100%.
Hmm.
And just reading a comment there, it took me a hot minute to find a teacher. She was the key to open my mind to trust the system.
Yeah. You know, I think, and I feel like, you know, it's a hard space because there are a lot of able-bodied teachers in the classical system. You have a lot of dancers and gymnasts who come to it, and you know, sometimes there's not necessarily, when you can do something in your body, it's really hard to to understand that somebody else might not be able to.
Right.
And also, if if your body is like a really able body and you're not going through like the injuries or the problems that, you know, like your clients are going through, sometimes there's some teachers can give you that feeling of like, what's the problem, just get it done. um,
Because they can't really
or
empathize.
on the flip side, over babying the client. That's the
Right.
other thing. Like, oh my gosh, you're hurt. We're not going to do anything. You know, we're just going to
Yeah.
lay down. Um, and you know, I feel like yes, it does take a good teacher to be able to like challenge the client enough without
Yes.
hurting them, you know, more
Right.
or hurting them where they were not hurt. So,
And that's where the personal training, when
hmm.
I moved over from personal training into Plies, that was the thing that I kept coming back to is that I had tens of thousands of exercises in my mental library for personal training. And then I was learning a classical system where I had 100 exercises. I didn't really know enough yet. I didn't understand how broad the work is
Yes.
and all those things. So I felt very limited at first because I would have to say, okay, well, we can't do this today because I didn't know where else we could go with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's why I had to continue to like commit to learning more and more and understanding where the system can take me. But I
And
was so sorry, I was so impatient with it because I knew I can. If the cable didn't work, I can go over to the bar. If the bar didn't work, I can go to the dumbbells. Dumbbells didn't work, I can go to the TRX. TRX didn't work, I can go over to, you know what I mean? I could go somewhere
yes.
else in the personal training floor, but I had nowhere to go yet with the Pilates days.
And that's where what you said about like having different languages, I feel like even in Pilates, like the different pieces of equipment are different languages depending on the body that you're working with. So if the reformer
Yes.
language is not working for your client, take them over to the small barrel. Like work with them on a different piece of equipment and it might speak a little bit better to their body, or over to the
Yes.
Cadillac or the tower. Um, so yeah, so I feel like Pilates has so many languages in itself.
In itself.
Um, you know,
Dialects, shall we say.
huh? Yes, it has so many dialects
Yes.
inside the system. Um, and I won't claim to be like, I won't claim to, I don't know all of them yet. So I'm still constantly learning. Oh my gosh, I didn't know this exercise existed. And I'd never
Yes.
done that before on this piece of equipment. So I'm still constantly learning, from teachers who have, other experiences in mine. And I feel like this language is so broad.
Hmm.
It's hard to learn everything and it's hard to remember everything once you've learned it. So you have to keep going back to it and, working and learning more.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
mhm.
There's the patience piece too, right? Like, I mean, like, we have to remember, like, this is years. Like Alexa, we're gonna be learning this for the next 10, 15 years. It's not like it's ever gonna stop the
Yeah.
learning piece, right? And the other part too, I was gonna say to that is, as I'm learning exercises, there's times when I'm like, oh, I'm allowed to do that. Like, I didn't know that that was in the, you know what I mean? And there's other points where as I learn the fundamentals, I understand the principles behind something, you can explore the movement and recognize that, okay, that is actually a move. That is actually a thing, right?
Hmm.
So that's all, like, this is fantastic learning that's in the work.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. I encourage everybody who's if you're a Pilates teacher, if you haven't explored the classical work because you heard that it didn't work for so and so, I encourage you to explore it. And yeah, it's worked for me. And I don't have the standard body. I have a lot of injuries, a lot of things that are going on, and it definitely it works for me. I have to say, it
yeah,
definitely, yeah. Hmm. But
I love
yes,
that.
I don't know how much time you wanted to give me this morning, Martin. I don't want to eat up all of your
I
all of
have
your hour
all
here.
kinds of time for you, all kinds of time. It's so funny. Like, I'm here thinking, like, I don't want to take up all of her time. It's like 42 minutes in, we've been like
You
yapping
know.
away. But it's a good conversation. I mean, I
Hmm.
like this just because, like, we're all at different points in this journey, and you're unapologetically strong on the classical too, which I love as well, and I give space for everyone, and I like having people who come from a classical perspective in here as well, just for the dialogue. But I mean, yeah, there's so much power in this work. I just
Hmm.
love Pilates in general. It just feels good. And the other thing too with that, as much as I lean towards the classical in terms of the way that I learn and where I wanted to learn to understand the origins, is our people don't really know the difference until we educate them on the difference.
Well, I feel like so was that a question or were you gonna
No,
add on?
I'm just
Okay.
saying. Like, I was
Um,
gonna, I was actually gonna say, like, they don't really care, but that's not true. I mean, I think that we need to, like, actually just be educating them on what is,
well,
right?
I do feel like there are some people who don't know, like I hear people say statements like, like doing I remember there was something I watched where somebody was doing a variation of coordination on the reformer and saying, well, why don't we do it like this? It's fun. And I was like, well, you didn't even do the first variation the right way. And again, that sounds maybe a little bit snobbish, but I feel like when
Mhm.
you're on the classical equipment and you do something, you do something the way it was intended to be done, activating the whole body, and then you're like, ooh, I'm gonna like add in this little bit. That makes sense. Um, it's very different from if you've done it once in your life and you didn't do it on a classical reformer. You feel like you have an understanding of the exercise, but in reality, you haven't really understood it. And then you want to make all these changes to it because they're fun, not because they're more effective or because they they activate more in the body. They help you find more
Yes.
Pilates. They help you get more connected. They help you
Hmm.
find more length, more strength,
Hmm.
more, not because they have like a benefit, because let's just do it because this feels good. It feels fun. And I'm like, well, then we start to lose like what is the purpose of this work? Um,
Yes.
you know, it's like if I went to Japan and I don't really speak Japanese, I learn a word and I'm like, well, I don't like the way you guys say it. It feels better in my mouth if I say it like this.
Yes.
This is how I think everybody should be saying it now. It's
Mm.
like that's doesn't know.
No.
It's better for me to go learn Japanese and then, like learn it. And then if you want to create like, if you want to have like a slang word that really
Yes.
works in the context of that language, then
Mm,
maybe you can put it forward. And if other people feel like, oh yeah, this is like this, other people who speak the original language are like, yeah, this actually does make
yes.
a lot of sense. Then
Yes.
it's like it's like something that makes sense versus like, let's just throw in a dumbbell.
It's
I,
right.
I've seen some teachers use kettlebells and I'm like, man, that makes sense. That
Mhm.
is genius. Yes,
Yes.
I'm gonna go try that exercise because I can see that when, she's moving, her body is like, I can see that that Pilates exercise is going like 10 times deeper than when she
Mhm.
didn't have that kettlebell versus, sometimes people like swinging around. I'm like, God, if you do that again, you're gonna hurt your clients. Like,
Yes. Right. Yes. Well, and the other part too to what you're saying is that the exercises are a system, right? So
hmm
I've used this example with back to the personal training world or sport conditioning. You have movement prep. You do a dynamic warm up. You're setting up for an
hmm
exercise. You're setting up for a more complex exercise, a more demanding exercise. So some of the exercises in the system are set up for another exercise, or all the exercises point to a different exercise. And I think that we forget that when we take the exercises a la carte, you
hmm
miss the setup exercise. You miss the fact that this exercise is also a movement prep for another exercise, right?
hmm
So I think that just when you understand and respect the origins of the work, then when you pull it out and you're separating it, you're setting it up in a certain way, you're setting up for another exercise with that exercise. That's the bigger discussion with the moves themselves.
Exactly.
So I think that's the element of it. So when people just, you're right. Like if I just like randomly choose an exercise, it's a cheap gift to make an exercise harder in my mind.
hmm
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Anyone can make an exercise harder. It's like, can you
hmm
break it down to set someone up so that they can find success in the exercise? Can you dissect it and make that one complex move 5 different exercises before? Like those are the ways that I look at it, and I've always looked at it. So that's why I was intrigued by the classical work
Yes.
because I understood how it was a system.
And with everything being said, I have had some amazing contemporary classes that I've taken or
Yep.
worked with some amazing contemporary teachers where I'm like, man, like this worked. It helped me. I feel like it all comes down to making connections, right? Like Pilates is
Yes.
all about forming or connecting better to your body.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
I feel like there's sometimes when changing things takes away from those connections, and there's other times when people really understand how to add to those, how to add to making your body more connected. I
Yes.
mean, there are things that we do in classical Pilates that were not Joseph Pilates. For example, the jump board was not Joseph Pilates, but it's a wonderful tool, for helping you make certain connections. Um,
Hmm.
but then there's jump board classes. I have clients who come to me who take jump board classes and are like, oh, I did jump board class, the back hurts so much. I'm like, then that jump board class maybe was not helping you connect better to your core. It was just moving your body. It was not
Yes.
safe, and it was not really Pilates then. Like if it wasn't stabilizing you, if it wasn't helping you, if it was hurting your back versus helping your back feel better, then
Yep.
somewhere along the line, yeah, you were using the jump board, but it stopped being
Hmm.
Pilates at some point.
Do you put I put that squarely on the teacher though, because if you or
Oh
I went
yes.
and got a job at some jump
hmm
board course, I'm sure we'd be looking at people's form correction, making sure they're set up, whatever, and people would have an amazing jump board experience
hmm
with a teacher that was intentional about making that connection
Oh
within the
yeah.
body,
hmm
right?
But
So
yeah, but then there ends up just being this like, let's just make it fun. Let's just go faster. Like you said,
yeah.
we can make this harder. And then it's like not this is not Orange Theory. It doesn't, yeah. There are other
Yes.
studios for that. But anyway,
Yes.
um, if you don't have a foundation in classical, I absolutely recommend, I absolutely recommend just, taking a few sessions and trying it out and like
Yeah, sure.
investing in some foundational training in the classical sense. But anyway, that is just me.
That's no, I agree. Like learn the language. I mean, you could be
hmm
a staunch contemporary person, still go learn the language.
hmm
Understand your origins.
Exactly.
I'm gonna read Mr. Griffin's comments here. Scoop Pilates and PT says, do you feel teaching Pilates and posting Pilates on social media are different? Sometimes, not always. You can post the fun stuff knowing it sometimes is just for social media. I,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'll
because you
post. I'll post like slow, boring exercises just as a movement prep. You know what I mean? Just to show like it doesn't have to be about like a one-handed clap push up on the reformer. Like I'm like, what's you can do that, but I'll also show a
Well,
roll.
I think my
Like,
my intention when coming onto social media was, and like I wrote it down before, because 3 years ago I wasn't necessarily posting on a regular basis and I wasn't sharing a lot on social media. And I was like, no, I feel like somebody should have told me about Pilates earlier in my career, in my life. I shouldn't
yes.
have found it in my mid 30s. I should have found it. Well, and I had actually done some contemporary Pilates and just never like understood or connected. I got a mat certification 10 years ago and
Hmm.
never really truly understood what I was doing. I was just teaching core work. And like about 2.5 years ago, I kind of said to myself, you know what? I wish somebody would have really like led me to Pilates and helped me find,
Yes.
this classical system much earlier than I did. I wouldn't have wasted so much time on other stuff. So I said, okay, I'm going to go on social media. And in case there's somebody else like me who has not found
Mm,
this because nobody's speaking to them, I hope I can bring that person to Pilates.
that's a
But I
great mission.
also, huh?
That's a great mission.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and especially for me, like especially black and brown people who were not skinny. Because I'm not necessarily, I'm not going to come out here and say that I'm like a large person, but I'm definitely the largest teacher. I'm trying to think, like, yeah, maybe there's like two of us who are my size at the studio. Um, but I'm definitely, most of the other teachers at the studio are smaller. And every time I would look into the Pilates studio before I decided to take this seriously, I was like, oh, it's only like small, mainly small white women who are in here. A lot of times they're older. So I thought it was like a rich old white lady thing that,
Hmm.
that's the people who did Pilates. And I just like, I wish somebody would have told me that no, everybody can do Pilates. Young
Yes.
black girl who is not the smallest in the room can do
Hmm.
Pilates as well. And it's going to be good for
Yes.
her.
Yes.
I'm no longer a young black girl, but I can hopefully pull pull people in earlier
You can
than I
still
found
relate.
this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, so my main thing was like I want more black people to do this. I want more Africans. I'm West African. I want more Africans to find out about Pilates. And I keep saying that I want more people who are like me to find this space. So I started
Hmm.
posting and I was very intentional when I started. I have a couple of friends who are very big on social media and I think I observed them for a really long time and observed how they picked and chose what they posted and how they posted
Yes.
it. And I realized that, so back to the question about is posting, when you post on social media, is it different from your teaching? 100%. What I post on social media are almost like, what's it called? Almost like little bites of things to get people interested in what the main thing is. Things that are
Yes.
relatable. I see so much Pilates being posted that if somebody has never done Pilates before, it doesn't look like anything. It literally, no one understands what that is. It would basically be like a doctor performing surgery and speaking medical terms. I have never performed surgery. I don't know what that is or why I should be interested in it. There's so much Pilates being shared that nobody understands and can relate to. And my thing was I wanted to share stuff that people would look at and they would like, oh, it's a hamstring exercise. I can understand that. Oh, so I show simple stuff on social media in the hopes that people will do the simple stuff, see how great that simple stuff is, and be like, what else is there? I want to find
Yes.
out about what else there is. And I can't tell you the amount of messages I get from people saying, I went to my local Pilates studio for the first time because I saw what you posted. I checking out Pilates, I signed up, or even even
Mm,
people who come to me as clients. So
yes.
there's and that was my main thing. I wanted people to become interested in Pilates. People who had not really been
Yes.
talked to before, who hadn't seen it before. I wanted them to kind of be like, oh, what's this? I want to know more about this. Um,
Yes. You're doing
yes.
a great
So
job with that.
yeah. So no, absolutely. Like my social media is little snippets that people can do. It is probably 1% of my practice or 5% of it. 5% of what I would teach you if you came in and actually worked with me. I rarely show reformer or equipment work, and if I do, it's usually just like 10 seconds worth of that versus the fact that I go into the studio and work out for an hour to an hour and a half on equipment. Um, yeah. So if, yeah, whatever you show on, but again, that's my strategy. You know, like some people have a
Yep.
completely different strategy, completely different audience that they're talking to. So I feel like you need to know who your audience is and what will reel in, like what is the most interesting thing to your audience? What's the most valuable thing to your audience? What do they
Yes.
want to know? And then post about that. And everything else will follow after that. Like people will come, oh my gosh, I didn't know it's so much more. It's like, you know, like this is so crazy. I never saw this, but
Yeah.
yeah, get
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like packaging, right? Like you see a box, you don't really know what's inside of it, but the box gives you an idea of what you, the feeling you
Intrigues
might
you.
get, you know, once you
Yes.
open the box. So depending on that, you either buy the box or you don't.
Yes.
So,
Nice.
hmm
That is so helpful. This is like branding 101, Pilates 101,
yeah.
the whole nine.
And I'll say, so I just had a reel recently that went absolutely like bananas. Like it surprised even me. Um, and sometimes when I post, I'm like, gosh, like this is like 10 seconds worth. Like this shows nothing. But to the person who has never done Pilates, if you can communicate something in 10 seconds, it's sometimes so much
Yes.
more valuable than posting a 20-minute long video that makes no sense. You
Right.
know, like I see people going on the Cadillac, they're like doing these like complicated exercises,
Hmm.
pushing the bar up and down. People look at that and they're like, what is this? But
Where am I
then
supposed to feel that? They don't
yeah, like
understand
what
what, yeah,
exactly does this do? Like, what is
right.
this? And it's just so expensive. I don't want to do this.
Mhm.
Versus one, like one rep of one exercise. Oh, that's a leg exercise. I didn't know you could do that in Pilates. I want to do that too. So
Yes.
yeah. I would recommend using your, you know, if it's not YouTube, YouTube you can post longer videos, but
Hmm.
if you're on Instagram or TikTok or something else, just post like this works this is this because that's literally as much time as people give you.
Right. It's
Hmm.
true.
Yeah. Hmm.
Man. Well, thank you. Like for chatting and catching. This is good stuff. I really,
No
really
problem.
appreciate it. As always, Alexa, we've so many good chats over the last year. So,
Yes, it's good to come on here. But I will let you go. I know your time's almost up,
mhm.
unless you have any last questions. But otherwise,
No, we're good.
have a
Have a good,
wonderful Monday. I'm going to
thank
get back to
you.
my admin and organizing.
All right. Enjoy your
Have a
Monday.
good
Thanks
one.
so much.
Bye.
So good. Thank you, low impact fit. Yes, so no doubt. Pilates words of wisdom for sure. Yeah, definitely repost. If you're just jumping in now, definitely watch this from the beginning. We touched on so many different topics. And we are back at it tomorrow. I have a couple of guests this week as well. Michael, who's in the chat earlier, and some other people. So you'll see the posters coming up a little bit later. And that is all. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Keep chasing after your vision, your calling, your people, and getting better at your plies at the same time, or whatever your craft is. There's so much more to learn. We never stop learning, and that is it. Hi, Oxford. Yes, definitely a great conversation. Appreciate it. Definitely follow. Meryl, how are you? People still come in. Cool. All right, we are out. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m. It's how we do. We're out.